Warning. The following podcast is utter nonsense and may cause agoraphobia, kleptomania, insomnia, and oppositional defiance disorder. We are required by law to provide you with this disclaimer for hazardous materials.
And hello to our first Hazardous Materials Best of the Decade special. I am Gideon Gonzalez, and with me as always is...
Casey Johnson. How's it going? This is our first little spin-off, a little special.
I'm hoping we do a lot more of these because I like the, eternal quality of them compared to weekly reviews.
Yeah, I know that we want to do some on like characters that we really like that think and need explanation. Like Moon Knight is a favorite of ours.
Yeah. And Doom Patrol, I'm a big Doom Patrol guy.
So we definitely want to do like some specials on that. We just got to figure out the format we want to do on that. There's a lot of decision making involved in that kind of stuff. But this time, it's all about our top 10 of the decade.
Yes, and I want to make it absolutely clear that this is not the definitive 10 best comics of the 2010s. These are our favorite books from the 2010s.
Yeah.
And just quick disclaimer, I did not read Jason Aaron's Thor, so honorable mention to that. I've heard it's amazing, one of the best of the decade, but I cannot speak to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of books that we didn't read that apparently are really high up on other people's top 10 that if we didn't bring up or say, we would lose some kind of credibility. Like, I didn't read all of Saga. Sorry. It's not on my list.
I've read a good chunk of Saga. I like it a lot, but it's not my favorite Brian K. Vaughan book this year. Or this decade, which we will get to, my favorite Brian K. Vaughan book.
I have also a Brian K. Vaughan book on my list.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But first off, I do want to give a shout out to my honorable mentions of books that I read and loved that I had to chop down in pursuit of a top 10.
All right, let's hear it.
Alrighty. Hawks and Pox, Superior Spider-Man, Prez, Animal Man, Immortal Hulk, Saga, Sex Castle, Silver Surfer by Slott and Allred, Squirrel Girl, Chew, Klaus, Grayson, Hellboy in Hell, Quantum and Woody, Archer and Armstrong, Bloodshot by Jeff Lemire, Fantastic Four by Jonathan Hickman, FF by Fraction and Allred, Doom Patrol and the entire Young Animal line, Shaft by David Walker, Midnighter and Apollo, Wonder Woman Year One, Action Comics by Morrison, Morales and Kubert, Superman Rebirth by Tomasi Jimenez and Monkey, All New Ghost Rider, All New Wolverine, Spider-Woman by Hopeless and Rodriguez, Superior Iron Man, Unbelievable Gwenpool, Miss Marvel, Omega Men, Zombie, Black Hammer, Tom King's Batman one-shots, Wonder Woman by Azzarello and Chang, Hercules by Dan Abnett, Daredevil by Wade Martin and Sam Nee, Howard the Duck by Zdarsky and Canones, The Wrong Earth, Agent Venom, Thunderbolts by Jeff Parker, and IDW's Team Ancient Ninja Turtles. It was very hard to whittle this down to top 10.
So, my honorable mentions are Immortal Hulk. All right,
hey, we got a shared entry. So, you want me to go first on?
Yeah, so we're gonna count this down from least to best, obviously. Instead of getting really lazy and just throwing them all into a big mixer like I wanted to when we first started this. We're gonna do 10, I guess.
Yes.
All right, let me hear you. What you got?
So my number 10 is my favorite Brian K. Vaughan book of this decade, and that is Paper Girls by Brian K. Vaughan with art by Cliff Chang.
Now, I don't know anything about this.
Paper Girls is about a group of paper girls, obviously in the 1980s, who experience an invasion, but not an alien invasion, a time invasion. And it's this massive, massive millennia spanning saga as they go backwards in time, forwards in time, and are being chased by dinosaurs and future cops. The cure for cancer is chased down. It's phenomenal. The elevator pitch I usually hear is it's all girls Stranger Things with time travel, but it actually predates Stranger Things, and I would say is better. It's already wrapped up. It's 36 issues. So there's 6 trades or 3 nice shiny hardcovers. Absolutely incredible book. Cliff Chang's art is phenomenal. I first found him on Wonder Woman, and then I went back and tracked down some Brave and the Bold issues he'd done. This is my favorite work by him, though. It just, when you really see an artist just go all out on creating just never before seen visuals, magic happens.
Now, this is really where the differences between you and I's tastes really shine, because you like a lot of independent books, a lot of little independent, little known. It's very often in this show, I'm like, what the hell is that? And you have to give me this dialogue about this completely batshit concept, like with Black Hammer or what was that one, that Black Hammer spinoff you were talking about?
Skeleton Boy and Skulldigger?
Yes. I mean, I'd never even heard of that stuff. So a lot of my stuff's kind of mainstream because that's kind of what I do. I do mainstream. I try to span out a little bit, but my number 10 is actually DC Universe Rebirth. Now, I hated 52.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main reason this is on here.
Let's clarify. New 52, not 52, the very, very good
I
Infinite
love
Crisis.
the 52 series.
Yeah, the New 52, though.
But the New 52 spinoff, I really disliked.
Mm-hmm.
Not only did DC Universe Rebirth give me the opportunity to say goodbye to that, and DC actually flat out acknowledged, hey, this didn't really work out for us.
Yeah.
And we're going to go back to this. But the reason why it's in this list, and you know why it's on this list, is because of Wally West.
Boy. Best boy.
The scene when Wally is trying to convince everybody that he exists because they've all forgotten about him.
Mm-hmm.
And that, oh my God, I get teared up just thinking about this as when he finally finds the Flash and Barry Allen, and Barry finally realizes who he is. And you got that big page fold out of them hugging and realizing who they are and how much time they've missed. I'm like, oh my God, the pathos that just drips off this page. I love this just for that. And it's going to be on my top 10 because of that.
So much promise from that. I really enjoy that Rebirth one shot.
Yes, absolutely.
Alrighty, my number 9 is a character who I flat out hated before this book, but gave the first issue a shot and a complete turned me around on him. That is The Vision by Tom King and Gabriel Walta.
Now, this is a book you've been trying to get me to read for a while.
Oh.
And I feel like I've let you down as a friend because I have not yet read it.
I try to get everyone to read Vision because I always say it as like, I hated the Vision. Hated that sad sack crying robot, like from Jump. I've never liked the character, but this book really humanized him for me. Like, because I mean, what's more human than wanting a family? And
Absolutely.
it really, the question at the heart of it is, how far will you go for your family? Because you see the Vision put in some very, very dicey ethical situations, and you see how far his wife Virginia will go, and the stuff with the arcs with Vivian and Vision. Just
would you characterize this as a tragedy?
Yes. Oh my goodness, yes. There's such a feeling of dread from the first issue. It really, when I read it, it just gave me so many flashbacks to the Twilight Zone and Black Mirror, two of my very, very favorite shows of all time, and I was just instantly hooked. This wasn't my first exposure to Tom King. I'd read him in Grayson before, but he'd had a co-writer in Tim Seeley then, and obviously Tim Seeley was the draw for me on that book. But this really sold me on King as a solo writer, and he's like Mark Russell for me. I read pretty much everything he does now. And
the daughter from that series spun off into Champions.
Yes. I'm less crazy about that just because a lot of what they've done with Vivian runs counter to where her arc ends in the book.
It's almost like her personality changed because of what happened.
It's a whole big arc of the book is her like accepting her humanity and emotions. And then she shows up in Champions just being beep boop, I'm a girl robot.
Yeah, she just shuts it right off.
Yeah, did not like that at all. But that doesn't take away from just the beauty and purity of those 12 issues.
And I personally feel bad that I have not read this.
You gotta.
And I still have it. It's still sitting in my hard drive. It's on my list of honorable mentions of books that I really, really, really needed to read. And I didn't.
You didn't do the homework.
I didn't. As a matter of fact, my honorable mentions are the Vision saga, Transformers More Than Meets the Eye, and Black Hammer, strictly based off the stuff you've given me. That being said, my number 9 is All New Wolverine.
Ooh, that's a fun one.
Which is our girl X-23 stepping into the costume and cowl of Wolverine, and also introducing one of my all-time favorite characters, Honey Badger.
Love Honey Badger.
Who steals every single scene that she is in.
I actually got my girlfriend the first trade of it as part of a Christmas present of a lot of different trades that I figured she'd dig. She absolutely loved it. Loved the sisterhood element in it. And of course, Honey Badger, just an endless delight.
I love Honey Badger so much. I wish I could just rattle off just the gags that Honey Badger has done, but I know that was going to limit the amount of pictures we're going to do, but we're going to put up some Honey Badger images. This is all some of the gags that we've done with what have been done with Honey Badger, and I'm really glad that they're finally acknowledging how good this book is because they're putting Laura back into the cowl.
Yes, that was one of my biggest disappointments, was her going back to the X-23 name and costume.
I hate that name so much.
I know, and especially when in All New Wolverine, there's a whole arc of her denouncing the name X-23.
I don't know why they keep going back to that name. It doesn't ring true. It's clinical. It's what her name was in the labs. Why would she want to own that?
Yeah. But hopefully there are brighter skies ahead for old Laura.
So what's your number 8?
My number 8, funny you should mention it, is Transformers More Than Meets the Eye and Lost Light by James Roberts, Guido Guidi, Alex Milne, and Jack Lawrence, and a host of other fill-in artists. So I was never a big Transformers guy. Just never really caught my attention as a kid. I watched the Michael Bay movies and I was like, it's whatever. Like I was a teenager when those were coming out. So it was just a thing I went and saw. A friend of mine recommended these books to me and she lent me the first few volumes and I was hooked. The elevator pitch that I always use for people is that it's Star Trek mashed up with Muppet Treasure Island, but everyone can turn into cars.
Right.
It's this amazing, heartfelt adventure series, great comedy. And I really think the best recommendation I can give for it is it's convinced me to spend entirely too much money on toys that I had no interest in before. I bought a $100 Megatron because I love Megatron's arc in this book so much.
You know what? I would shame you for that if I hadn't already been planning to get my own set of Devastator because I want the best Devastator out there.
There is a very good Devastator.
And there's a lot of different sets of Devastator.
Yeah, a lot of third-party ones.
Well, this particular book didn't crack into my top 10. I got introduced into this by my ex recently. Mm-hmm. This is apparently her favorite title everywhere. And so she would constantly send me CBR files of this and it's like, wow, this is really well written.
It's phenomenal. I'm really curious to see what James Roberts writes next. He did a couple of Spider-Man issues over at Marvel, but I really want to see him on like a big ongoing title, especially with how much clout he deservedly got for Transformers More Than Meets the Eye. And the craziest thing is, it has a satisfying ending, but it's that kind of adventure continues ending. And even though there's been a Universal reboot, it's done in such a way that maybe they could bring him back for a one shot.
Huh. Okay.
Fingers crossed.
My number 8 is The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. This is the source material for the Netflix show that's been running for a while now with, I think season 3 is going to come up here on the 23rd. It's coming up this month for sure. This is a deep horror take, and I mean deep horror take on the Archie Comics character Sabrina. This is some really crazy shit. You've got over the top Satanism, demons, people being eaten. Sabrina loses her boyfriend like halfway through this during the Black Mass, and he's I think his soul is devoured and then taken over by Lilith, the mother of beasts. And it's like, this book is exceedingly horror intensive.
I really think it's such a big defining point in comics for the decade was the release of Afterlife with Archie. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that was such a successful book that it led to, oh my God, I'm completely blanking on his name right now. Aguirre Sacasa to become the head of creative at Archie.
This book actually felt, artistically speaking, like a throwback to the old creepy books.
Yeah.
The old EC stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed that. I love the imagery that they were using, especially for Lilith, when they would showcase, she's got this skull face and mouths for eyes and this over-the-top demonic insanity.
I haven't read Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, but I remember seeing some of those hack covers and like the Madam Satan first one, it looks like an old Vampirello or EC book.
Exactly.
Like it just really grabs you with that old school Harris Comics mentality.
I love it. And I love the show that's come out of it. Mm-hmm. I love the show that has actually tried to stay true for the most part. They didn't kill off her boyfriend in that. But
I mean, that is the good news of having it adapted by the writer of the book.
Yeah. I think the biggest difference between the book is for all the horror aspects of it, Sabrina does not take part of her Black Mass. She basically just ditches it. Mm-hmm. And that's basically the crux of her entire story in the comic. Wherein in the series, she completes her Black Mass. And then boom. Or am I getting the two mixed up? I think I'm probably getting the two mixed up. I've been watching way too much Sabrina because she eventually does do the contract. Anyway, so that's what I had. I highly recommend it. I also try Afterlife of Archie, which is also really good. But
excellent,
I think Chilling makes my top 10.
Well, next up on mine is the best Suicide Squad comic not published by DC Comics, Michael Fief's Copra. He is it started as an incredibly small press indie book. Like he was essentially mailing out photocopies of it. Like I think the number one has a print run of like 200 copies.
Yeah, we talked about this in one of our episodes because I had never even heard of it before.
And I started reading it when Diamond Distributors started doing trades, I think he still was like self-printing the trades, but it got like worldwide distribution. So I was like, oh, cool. I love the Suicide Squad and I've heard great things about this book. It really does capture the feel of that original Kim Yale, John Ostrander Suicide Squad that the official Suicide Squad comics have not been able to.
No, I think of way too many survivors in our Suicide Squad these days.
This book, though, it goes so brutal. Multiple characters die every arc. And if you look at the cover, you may say, hey, that just looks like Deadshot and Captain Boomerang and the crew.
I did.
It's 100. It wears its influence on its sleeve. Like I joke and say it's Suicide Squad with the serial numbers filed off.
That was an acquired taste for me. I actually had to read that entire thing completely twice to give it back when I was talking about this, to give it the college run, because the first one, I hated it. Absolutely hated it because the art felt juvenile. It felt like an Ashcan comic that some kid had put together. But then when I got the premise of the entire thing, that made a lot more sense for the artistic.
It's currently being published by Image, but I highly recommend going back and checking out those older trades. And I think Image is going to be doing a new run of the trades as well to help catch people up. Yeah,
I think they're bringing back the first few issues of the trades because they have to, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Highly, highly, highly recommended it.
Okay, so that was number 7. Number 7 for me is the newest series. Well, I guess all of the series except for the middle one of Runaways. This is my Brian K. Vaughan book.
Yeah. I mean, Brian K. Vaughan was just on it in the 2000s, but the 2010s revival.
Yes. The one I'm reading right now is the one that I think they revived like in 2016 or something, 2015.
Yeah, around that. It's been going for a few years now.
Yeah, it's great. The art is great. Oh God, I had the writer
Rainbow Rowell.
Thank you. Who writes a lot of young adult novels. She handles Runaways perfectly. Pretty much the way that the first series was handled. I think she did just as good as Brian K. Vaughan.
That's high praise.
High praise indeed. I can't get enough of this book each and every month. I like Doom. Doombot that's in this.
So I was going to say, I've been curious to pick it up because while I haven't read the original Runaways book, I'm a huge Chris Anka fan who is the artist for, I think, the first 18 issues. His design for Doombot with that just impeccable suit.
Yes.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And the suitcase that says Doom.
Yes.
I also like the storyline that they go with Victor Mancha, which is, I guess.
That's another reason you should read The Vision because he pops up there.
Yes, and he's apparently Ultron's heir to the throne. For the most part in this book, he's a head.
Yeah, on a Roomba.
On a Roomba or like spider legs. And every time it's like, you know what? I could totally make you a body because I don't want it. I don't want to be a person. I don't want to be a human in that sense. I'm fine existing like a head. And then finally he convinces his friend Doombot and Chase to put together a body, which he now has. And he is sharing a romantic storyline with Gertie because now Gertie and Chase have that really awkward age gap that they can't be together.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Yeah, because Chase is now in his 20s and he's pulled Gertie through time to now where she's still 15. So, well, I've saved you, but I can't be with you. But I guess Victor is okay with that because he's like a robot's been around for like 4 years.
Good thing. Good thing Chase is a good dude.
He is a good dude. Stand-up guy. I like that guy. So, yeah, Runaways, definitely check it out.
My number 6 is a book recommendation that always raises a few eyebrows whenever I bring it up. The Flintstones by Mark Russell and Steve Pugh.
I wonder why.
It is. I always just feel like, wait, really? The Flintstones?
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
It is a genius satire and social commentary book.
Okay.
Every issue has at least one monologue that I can point to and just be like, this is beautiful. It has so much to say about marriage, about obsolescence, about war, about trauma. It's a beautiful book. And I know it sounds ridiculous wrapped up in the Flintstones.
And who pointed you in this direction?
The writer, Mark Russell, who had written Prez previously, which was
the Teenage President.
Yes. And that was one of my favorite books of 2016. Actually, probably my favorite book of 2016. And I was hungry for more of his stuff. And so I saw him attached to the Flintstones, picked up the first issue, loved it, read it all the way through, mourned it when it was canceled at 12. And I just follow him now from everything he does. And Steve Pugh also drew Animal Man, which I was a really big fan of. And it's wildly, wildly different from his work on Flintstones. He really brings like a nice weight and humanity to every character. Also, it has some incredibly good dark humor.
Dark humor in a Flintstones comic.
Yeah,
Who knew?
I don't want to spoil some of the jokes because they're excellent, but yeah, there's a joke about a suicide hotline having hold music.
Yeah, that's actually an old Rodney Dangerfield joke.
My God.
I called suicide prevention and they put me on hold. Yes.
The guy calling goes, all right, this better be damn good music.
My number 6 is Batwoman. Specifically the J.H. Williams III run. As you know, he was the one that took over right when Batwoman got her first solo book.
Yes.
And is beautifully painted. And I say painted, not drawn. This man illustrated the panels like they flat out didn't exist. You know, she would... I can't explain... your usual comic has frames. That's just the way you do. You got a grid. You got your 9 or 16 or however many frames you need to do.
16, what are we, Frank Miller?
Yes, it would be. Thank you. But J.H. Williams completely ignores these. Sometimes images will drape over like this, and the images will be implanted amongst the larger image that he's put in. Sometimes the frames don't exist at all. Is beautifully, beautifully painted. And it breaks my heart that this series was cut short because of DC's lack of, I guess, vision. And in the book, Batwoman was supposed to get married with her girlfriend.
Yeah, Kate Sawyer, right?
DC wasn't having it.
Yeah, that was a weird time when DC was very hardline. Superheroes can't be married.
Yeah. And because of that, J.H. Williams took off. They brought in some other people to try to mimic that style, and it just didn't take. And that's pretty much after that where I checked out. But if you can get a hold of like maybe the first 3-4 trade paperbacks of this, so good. So good.
And my number 5 is actually the independent book that got me picking up non-Marvel and DC on a monthly basis. That is Sex Criminals by Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky.
I've heard about this.
Sex Criminals is a story of a couple who discover that when they climax, they stop time. And they use this power to rob banks, but for a good purpose.
Oh my God.
They're doing it to save their local library. And
very nice.
Of course, that the series has a very simple, easy, fun hook that then just expands to this wild network of different people with sex-based superpowers.
Oh my God.
And Chip Zdarsky packs so many jokes and little background bits. There's a scene where they're running through a sex store and every title is written. It's amazing.
That's an impressive attention to detail.
Yeah. And while it doesn't have a very regular schedule because both Fraction and Zdarsky are busy with other projects, whenever it does come out, it's pretty much guaranteed to be my favorite book. You've
got to give me at least one more sex power.
There is. Oh my God, I'm trying to remember. There's a character whose nickname is Maname, whose semen becomes magical girls. He's a pretty late into the game edition though. There's also one of the main villains is named Kegelface.
I'm trying to experience this in my head.
And Kegelface can just by focusing muscles bring herself to orgasm, so she can stop time whenever she needs.
Oh, of course! How convenient. Let's completely ignore the army of space girls in the back here.
Kegelface comes much before Maname.
Would it be safe to say that these magical girls are easier to spot with a black light?
Yes. By the power of the moon.
Okay. Moving on to my 5. Oh, okay. Decidedly shift in I guess subject matter is Marvel's take on Darth Vader. This has been like 2 or 3 series right now. If you count Vader, was it Vader Rising?
There was Darth Vader, Vader Down was like, it had a couple bookend one shots, was a crossover between the main Vader book and Star Wars. And then there was the Charles Soule one. So it was
this thing is pure fan service for any Darth Vader fan. I mean, the whole book is just how badass can we make Vader? And it introduces a lot of really cool characters like Dr. Aphra, which I think that they're actually trying to come up with something live action for.
Yeah, which would be amazing.
I would totally watch something Dr. Aphra.
Yeah. Evil Indiana Jones.
That's exactly what
character.
we're doing. Yeah, basically taking the Indiana Jones character, just the concept of the noble archaeologist, but completely selfish and in complete self-interest. And you've also got an evil C-3PO and an evil R2.
000.
000 and BTO. Or is it B20?
I think BT0.
BTU, yeah. But the astromech droid is an assassin droid.
Covered in weapons.
Yes, absolutely covered in weapons. And 000 is a protocol droid who also specializes in torture.
He's got all of these little, like, the little the torture ball from episode 4 with the needles and stuff. Yeah. His fingers are those. It's so good.
So these droids are completely black with red accents. So they look as Empire as all hell. And these become pretty much like the sidekicks for Vader for a number of capers that he is involved in. Now, this is obviously taking place between New Hope and whatever has been coming after that.
Yeah.
Because it's during the Darth Vader series where he actually finds out about the existence of his son.
Yes. That's my absolute favorite scene from those books is him flashing back to encountering Luke Skywalker and the way the windows all around him just crack.
Yeah. So basically what happened is that Vader commissioned Boba Fett to find out who blew up the Death Star. And he comes back saying it was one pilot. And he goes, who's that? It's a pilot by the name of Skywalker. And it's right there that Vader realizes that his son survived the birth. Because he knew that Padme was pregnant. He didn't know there was twins. It's the reason why he didn't know about Leia at all.
Yeah.
So, but that's at that moment of realization and that rage. And then that's when he cracks the window in front of him with the Force.
And so much of the books is also him conspiring against Palpatine.
Yeah.
Which is
with a variety of other crap, and at the same time covering his six. So you got like this, just nails on the edge going. Even though we all know how Vader's fate works, but he's always doing this other stuff, and at the same time trying to cover himself not only from Palpatine, but from like Inquisitor Moffs that are specialized in this kind of level of interrogation. Finding some surgeons and stuff like that. Great, well drawn, and I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah. My other favorite bit from that is at the end of Charles Soule's run, the second Vader series, the reveal that the way Shmi Skywalker's virgin birth happened was that Anakin is essentially a construct of Palpatine. He used the Force from like across the galaxy to create this clump of midichlorians to form a child, which I love that. I love that so much. And I'm genuinely disappointed they didn't use that in Rise of Skywalker. And instead, Palpatine just has a kid.
So I guess that makes Rey a Skywalker-in-law?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, legally speaking. Well. So my number 4 is... Honestly, I'm kind of surprised it didn't get a bit higher, but that just shows how many great books came out this decade. And that is The Multiversity by Grant Morrison with Ivan Reyes, Chris Sprouse, Ben Oliver, Frank Whiteley, Cameron Stewart, Jim Lee, and a host of other artists that I'm forgetting. The premise of the book is essentially heroes of the multiverse united against a common threat. And that threat is the Gentry, who are kind of a commentary on fan expectation and demand. And they darken every universe they come to, poisoning them. And you see it in varying effects in different universes. And every issue of it's a 9-issue series with 2 bookends. And the 7 in the middle all take place entirely on one different universe. Hence why there's different artists. And the Gentry, to varying degrees, have affected some of them. Like in The Just, where it's about the next generation of heroes, where all of the current superheroes' kids are vapid celebrities. The Gentry basically has a complete foothold. Like they have taken hold of the universe and infected it. Meanwhile, in Thunderworld, which is classic Golden Age Captain Marvel world, no effect. Captain Marvel looks at the comic, because the way the Gentry spread is through comic books in different universes. Captain Marvel takes a look at it and is like, ugh, looks ghastly. Throws it aside and then flies off.
This would be the Fawcett universe, I guess.
And just delightful. It's a beautiful love letter to every era of DC. And I have to give a special shout out to the Frank Quitely drawn Pax Americana, which is an incredible riff on Watchmen and just a masterpiece of comics craft.
I love Frank Quitely.
The trick with the issue is that it's symmetrical. You can read it forwards or you can read it backwards.
That's
and it
trippy.
Still works. Yeah, it's insane.
And Frank also drew The Authority and Morrison's X-Men.
Yes. Yeah. New X-Men, created Glob Herman, all that crew of kids. Beak.
Armor.
No, Armor was an Astonishing X-Men. That's a John Cassidy creation. But yeah, Multiversity. You get to see Jim Lee draw Hitler on the toilet.
Mr. Lee, we have your instructions for today. This is what.
It's so good. And also the middle is a guidebook to the DC multiverse, breaking down every Earth and what their gimmick is, the little drawing.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and even leave spaces for ones to come in, to be filled in later. But
there's like a little mystery Earths.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember that.
But you've heard my thoughts on the current Justice League run and Scott Snyder's again reworking of the DC multiverse. We had it perfect. We had Multiversity. That's all I'll say about that.
Okay, so just judging from the fact that I know you've got this title on your list and you haven't said it yet, which means it must be like one of your top 3.
Yeah.
And that is Superior Foes of Spider-Man.
Yes. I love Superior Foes.
And this is Dan Slott's thing, if I'm not mistaken. No. What is this? Who
Superior
wrote this?
Foes is by Nick Spencer and Steve Lieber.
Right. This is after Slott's run on Spider-Man.
It's concurrent with Superior Spider-Man.
Okay.
They were wanting to have a bigger network of titles.
I love me a villain book. I love me a villain book that's clever, and I love me a villain book that's clever and hilarious.
Yes.
And that's exactly what we're talking about here. Even though it says this book is about the Superior Foes of Spider-Man, it's really all about our boy Boomerang and his new group of villains, which includes like a new Beetle, a rarely ever seen Spider-Man villain by the name of Overdrive, the Shocker.
Don't mock the shock.
And my personal favorite Marvel speedster, Speed Demon. These guys are hilarious. Most of the time, they're trying to plan out scams. They're also trying to say, should we believe in Boomerang because he's kind of a shyster kind of dude. You've also got everybody hitting on Beetle because this Beetle is a woman and the only woman in the entire group. And of course, the massive disrespect that Shocker is getting on a constant basis. At one point, they actually even tried to kill him and bury him alive. Just the dialogue between Speed Demon and Shocker, as Shocker is in the trunk of the car waiting to be buried alive. I love poor Shocker, and he really is the butt of most jokes, not only on Spider-Man, also on Daredevil books. But this book was so good, and I'm glad that they took the writer of it and he took over Slott's run after he was done.
Yes.
And then, of course, because of that, we had more Boomerang. And that's when Boomerang moved in with Peter Parker. And that was golden.
His scumbag roommate. And I think either the next arc or the arc after next is going to be more Boomerang stuff. So
I love Boomerang so much.
I feel that Amazing Spider-Man right now.
I can't get enough of Superior Foes of Spider-Man. It feels like a funny Thunderbolts, which I really wish that Thunderbolts would properly come back. I know you brought up your Thunderbolts during your long dialogue.
The Jeff Parker ones, where Boomerang and Shocker were a part of.
I couldn't put it on my list because the art was just...
Declan Shelby, man. Got rules. No. The guy who drew Warren Ellis's Moon Knight.
Maybe we're talking about two different guys because the guy I saw was a Liefeld. They had a clone.
Oh, no, you're thinking that's, not the same Thunderbolts. That's John Maylin's Thunderbolts that Jim Zub wrote.
Yeah, the most recent one.
Yeah, no. I was referring to the Jeff Parker run with Luke Cage and Man-Thing.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and with the Troll Girl.
Yes.
I love the Troll Girl. Okay, I can back that play. That's good.
And I've got a lot to say about Superior Foes, but I'll save that for when it comes up on my countdown.
Okay. What is your number 4?
Oh, this is my number 3. My number 3 is another Tom King joint, Mr. Miracle by King with Mitch Gerads. I'm a huge Mr. Miracle fan. He is my favorite New God. I love him. Love Big Barda. I was a big Justice League International fan as a kid, and so that was my first exposure to them. And then I later got into New Gods and just a whole mess of Kirby goodness.
I've always liked Big Barda because they bring in, it's a tall, big woman. You don't really see that in
Small man.
Yeah, exactly. You don't see that in comic books, and you rarely ever see it celebrated the way it was.
It drives me nuts that the DC Universe Classics Big Barda figure is shorter than their Mr. Miracle.
That doesn't make any damn sense.
Garbage. But this book is so good. Tom King's had a bunch of great books the past few years. This is the best of them. It's a perfect marriage of art, concept, and story, where it opens with Mr. Miracle failing to kill himself. Or does he? That's kind of the mystery throughout is did he actually escape death? Because it's the last thing the last challenge for him. He's a master escape artist. He's the new god of freedom.
Let's talk about what is Mr. Miracle's real name again?
Scott Free.
Weren't trying too hard that day, were they?
Hey, it's in context. It's a name given to him by Granny Goodness as a mock.
Okay, that does make sense.
Which, speaking of, Granny Goodness has never been scarier than she is in this book.
I like the fact that she's in the new Titans series that is on DC.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
She's like a tech mogul on
on Young Justice.
Titans. On Young Justice. I'm sorry, not Teen Titans. I love her on that.
Yeah, it's delightful. I love that it's like the second time she's not voiced by Ed Asner, because Ed Asner voiced her on the Superman cartoon and the Justice League cartoon. One of my favorite bits of trivia.
Oh man!
But she's voiced by the woman who voiced Aunt May on Spectacular Spider-Man, so that's a fun mental disconnect for me.
I think Ed Asner is quickly becoming the Abe Vigoda of the new era. You can't believe he's still alive, but there he is.
Yeah. But back to Mr. Miracle. It's an excellent story about the traumas of war, which is a big thing that comes up in a lot of Tom King's work, because the war between Apocalypse and New Genesis has been going on forever. Building a family in the light of that, recovery. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. An absolutely excellent ending. Cannot recommend enough. Another just good 12-issue book that you can just pick up one nice trade and read it and reread it to your heart's content.
Huh. Okay. Well, my number 3 was not that. My number 3 is co-owned by House/Powers of X. And what Hickman has done for the X-Men. When I first heard about this whole concept, I thought, this is just going to be some bullshit alternate universe crap that sometimes approaches in X-Men storylines, like the Age of X-Man and stuff like that. Storylines that take about 6-7 months to tell. No real impact on the universe. Okay, that's great. But then I started really reading into this. It's like, wow, not only is this a drastic paradigm shift, but they're sticking with it. It's entertaining, and I want it to keep going. I'm really excited with what Hickman is doing. I'm glad that he's given almost all of the X titles a similar vision. Even though he's got all these other writers working with him, he's clearly got his hand in the pot of every single one of them, except for maybe Fallen Angels. And I love it. I absolutely love everything that's coming out of the X titles. I haven't been this excited about X-Men in probably at least 20 years.
Yeah, this is the best the book has been since New X-Men, which is my gold standard for X books.
This is the Morrison we were talking about earlier.
Yes, exactly.
I don't like the leather jackets.
All about those leather jackets. And signifier of a great X-Men run, my boy Zorn. He is in almost every issue of House and Powers of X for one panel.
He's a major factor in it.
It was Zorn Watch 2019 every week. And that's the real kind of the hat trick of this book, is that it came out on a weekly schedule uninterrupted. No delays. It just went bam, 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 bam for 12 weeks.
Yeah, this was really well planned out. I don't know if that was Hickman's deal, because he is the editor for this line, as well as the writer.
I know he's got like a big hand in it, but I believe it's still Jordan White is the editor for the X line, but he is like the showrunner essentially.
Yeah, the creative, the creative man, the Joe Quesada of this particular thing. There's even titles that are like coming out much later that I still feel are part of this. There's
a reason that we pretty much cover every X title every week.
Almost.
Yeah.
And strangely enough, I know we've talked about this before, they're really reining in the Wolverine.
Yeah, they are. There's not nearly as much Wolverine overexposure as you think. He's
you ever see him every once in a while, but he doesn't dominate.
I think X-Force is probably the most he's in. He's in every issue of X-Force. He pops up in X-Men every so often.
Yeah, when you see the little triad.
Yeah. The old Cocoa Backdoa. But, and he's getting a solo book.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, was inevitable.
Inevitable. And I that's coming out in like next month.
I think so, yeah.
I've actually seen that Marvel's trying to stir up like parties. They want to like get Wolverine parties for the release. I noticed that Marvel has been doing a lot of hype for some of their big titles. They want it to be like an event, like what they did with the midnight release of Carnage.
Yeah.
They're trying to get Wolverine parties going.
My store never does that.
Oh, thank God.
It's like, I ain't staying up till midnight selling comics. Get out of here.
So what do you got for number 2?
Number 2 is the previously mentioned Nick Spencer and Steve Lieber masterpiece, The Superior Foes of Spider-Man. Just an excellent, really, the thing I think is understated enough about it is Steve Lieber's a master of physical comedy. You can see it in his Jimmy Olsen book right now. You can see it in Superior Foes. Particularly, one of my favorite gags of the book is when Mach 5 is continually tries to leave rooms, but with his giant wings, he has to shimmy around doors or he knocks stuff over. It's so good. There's, oh man, where do I even start with Superior Foes? My boy, the Shocker, gets the best humiliation conga turned roller coaster of fortune with the head of Silvermane.
Yes, the autonomous head of Silvermane, the crime boss of New York.
Steve Lieber still gets commissioned to draw Shocker wearing the head of Silvermane as a medallion. It brought back the Shocker mobile. He gets to take out the Punisher in the final issue.
A little bit of backstory on this one. So Alfredo Silvermane was like this big crime boss, but he became exceedingly old, and of course, in an effort to stave off the inevitable death, turned himself into a cyborg. We're talking like full conversion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like everything is robotic because you can see his heart. He's pulling a General Grievous.
Yeah.
Apparently, some people are trying to find where Silvermane has been all this time.
The head of Silvermane.
And he's like just a head, like in like a box. And they get a hold of this head, and it's like all screaming threats at them the entire time.
The whole time it's been the head has been in a junkyard that a small boy found and put onto an RC car. So it's this little robot head on a little green dune buggy.
There's little doubt that we were going to put this at least in our top 5.
Some other favorite gags. Speed Demon stealing a girl's dog at a pet store
because she abused it, right? Or she just flat out stole it.
No, it was. He was just being an asshole.
And he just stole his dog.
The whole bit is that she calls him stupid, and he's like, "Well, you're stupid," and zips out and comes back, takes her dog, and runs away with it.
That's right.
Then he keeps the dog for the rest of the series.
That's so great.
There's the big MacGuffin besides the head of Silvermane is a portrait of Doctor Doom with his mask off.
Yes.
So they never show.
Yeah, you don't get to see that.
But you do get a panel of a drunken Doom asking an artist to paint him like one of your French girls. And my favorite background gag is that the Shocker's couch is the same material as his costume.
Oh God, that's right.
It's that same yellow pattern.
quilted?
Exactly. Adore Superior Foes of Spider-Man. It's made me a lifelong fan of the I'm blanking on her first name, the Janice Lincoln Beetle. Boomerang, who I already like because I like Boomerang thing villains, but brought him from being a B-list Captain Boomerang to a great character in his own right. Speed Demon just upped his greatness. Overdrive, I really dug Overdrive from his, like, I think he'd only had one appearance before, and a Phil Jimenez drawn for Comic Book Day.
He turns himself, or he transforms into any vehicle?
No, he can.
Or creates vehicles.
He has nanotech that lets him upgrade vehicles.
That's right.
So there's a scene where he and Beetle hide in a school bus, and then he turns into this like Mad Max truck to plow through traffic with all the kids still inside.
Of course.
Just one of the funniest books I've ever read. It's whenever people ask for comic recommendations, that's number 2 on my list.
Yeah, I'm reminded of the Deadpool issue where he's fighting against Sabretooth, and the bus comes by and sees them eviscerating each other. I can't get enough of this. My number 2, which I have a feeling is your number 1, Hawkeye, Matt Fraction.
Yes. Fraction, David Aja, Steve Lieber again from Superior Foes, Annie Wu, and I believe Francesca Francavilla, and at least one more artist worked on it.
I think one of the things that really kind of captured it is, of course, the way it's drawn. The very simple framework.
David Aha's beautifully minimalist artwork just gets you into the tone of the book from the jump.
I was sucked in by one image, and that was when his house was getting shot up while he was butt naked, and he does that dive on the side, and like his old masked thing is like covering his junk as he's driving by. It's like, that is hilarious. Anything with the dog.
The pizza dog.
Anything with the Slavic bros.
Mm-hmm.
Bro. We're going to do, bro. We're going to do this, bro. Come on, show us up, bro. I love those dudes.
With their matching Mini Coopers.
Yes. The fact, I think everybody in his building is charming as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I like any scene that he is in with Kate Bishop.
Yes. Really, it's a testament to just how good this book is, that while the immediate aftermath, All New Hawkeye by Jeff Lemire failed to capture that interest, but the Kate spinoff book, phenomenal.
Yeah.
I liked Kate from Young Avengers, but she wasn't my favorite. I was more of a Patriot guy. But she has become my favorite of that generation of heroes because of Fraction's Hawkeye and Kelly Thompson's Hawkeye.
There's one scene where she's picking up Clint, and he's getting dressed as he's like running down the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets in there and he's just in his pants. And he's like trying to do his thing. And she's just staring at him unabashedly. He goes, really? With the abs? Really? Just drive.
And I love when the Kate Goes West issues drawn by Annie Wu, where she has the adventures in LA, which then leads into her own solo book, and then later to West Coast Avengers.
Yes.
So we're still feeling the legacy of this phenomenal book.
Yeah, West Coast Avengers had like a 12-issue one, if I'm not mistaken.
And it was excellent.
It really was. I don't know why Fraction isn't still doing this book.
I mean, he said what he needed to say, and it took a while to come out with all the delays. So.
Yeah, he was heavily delayed.
I was going to say, I'll wait and I'll have wait on my thoughts for Hawkeye until my turn. Was like, it's going to feed right into it. So we're just going to talk about Hawkeye now.
We're going to talk about Hawkeye.
Of course, the best single issue.
Yes.
Pizza's My Business. The pizza dog focused issue is entirely from his perspective. The color palette is muted to represent like a dog's field of vision.
Color blindness, yeah.
He can only pick up on certain words. The speech bubbles are mostly squiggled out, except for things like good boy or stay
or pizza dog
or pizza.
My favorite episode is the sign language episode.
Yes,
episode, the issue.
Also excellent.
Almost all of it is done through sign language, and you really have to look up what they're talking about through American Sign Language. I ended up, I lucked out because I've got cousins that are involved in American Sign Language and teaching it to deaf kids. So I was able to kind of get my information from that. It's like, oh, okay, that's what's going on in this story. But again, it's a bold choice.
Yeah. And it's a testament to Fraction and Aha's storytelling abilities. You still get the gist of what's going on, even without understanding ASL.
Well, you don't understand the minutia of American Sign Language,
exactly.
But still, it's there. It's like a little tip of the hat that people actually know this language, or deaf readers that identify with Hawkeye.
And it's just really cool that someone actually remembered Hawkeye's deaf.
Yeah, exactly.
He should always be drawn with a hearing aid, because in the original Hawkeye miniseries by Mark Grunwald, he knocks out his hearing.
That's
Sonic
right.
Arrow.
We love Hawkeye.
We do.
We do
huge Hawkeye fans. He's my favorite Avenger, my second favorite Marvel hero after Spidey.
So now that we've already knocked out your number one.
Yeah, exactly. What's your number one, Casey?
What's my number one? Okay, now I may have cheated slightly. I had to look up the dates of this particular book because I really, really wanted to talk about it. It barely gets into the decade, but Blackest Night.
It's a damn good one.
Blackest Night. And of course, that's why I'm wearing my old Green Lantern.
Not my favorite Jeff Johns Green Lantern story, but the best Green Lantern story of the 2010s.
Easily.
Well...
No, I mean,
by Jeff Johns, at least.
This could be, and then this spawns not only Blackest Night, but a lot of the other spinoff books that came from it. I actually spent the coin and got like all the hardbacks for this, and it's like a line this thick. Blackest Night is this freaking big on my shelf. I got me into Green Lantern. It got me into HeroClix again because HeroClix did Blackest Night.
A really good set, yeah.
A really great set. I bought every single figure from that because it was Blackest Night.
That Kyle Rayner figure still rules.
I loved all the different lanterns. I've got a variety of different rings at home. I spent upwards, I don't know, I'll get into what I spent, but they were silver, and I have multiple sets of these suckers.
That was actually one of the books that got me into buying monthly comics.
Blackest Night
I was purely a back issue guy. I read the Final Crisis trade, and Blackest Night was just starting up then, and it hooked me. I was okay with Green Lantern. He was cool. Probably my top 10. But man, Blackest Night put him up in top 5 easily. Yeah. Just not him as a character, but just the concept and everything that came with him, and all these different cores and all this different lore. And that's the biggest thing, to Jeff Johns' credit, is Green Lantern, his run, is a book where everything is much more interesting than its central protagonist. But that stuff is so good that it keeps you reading. Exactly. Oh my gosh, so good. So I had to look this up, and it turns out that this series started in 2009. Yeah. But it did end in 2010, which technically puts it in here, and technically is the best way. Thank God Ivan Reyes missed a few deadlines. Exactly. Oh, God, guy. Although I will say, I do find it completely unforgivable that there's not a paperback that actually integrates Blackest Night with Blackest Night Green Lantern, because you really got to read the two together. You really do. Those are basically those are two cores. I never bought the trade, so whenever I let friends read it, I was just like, here's my chunk of singles in proper reading order. When people have actually asked me about Blackest Night, I've actually pulled out the entire stack. I was like, listen, here it is in its entirety. Here's a map on exactly how to read this, because there is a map and it's necessary. Maybe you don't need to read the Jonah Hex, great Blackest Night stuff, but you got to know where this is going, where this is going, where this is going, and stuff like that. It's an incredibly intricate read, but it's worth it. Totally worth it. I'm a total fanboy for this book. It's a great one. And easily the best of the 2010s. Well, it may not be a Hawkeye for me, at least, but it's still an excellent read, and a really great entry point in the DC universe, at least for where the stage was right before the New 52. Exactly. Well, I think that wraps it up for our best of the decade. Yeah, I can't wait to do another one in 10 years. Yeah, maybe this time we could actually read Saga. We'll see. No promises. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in once again. You can always give us a sub to our Patreon. Helps greatly. But if you're not in the mood for that, just give us a like or a subscribe. Hell, even a comment. Yeah, tell us what your favorite of the decade was. We'd love to see it. Oh, yeah, definitely. Agree with us or disagree. Love to hear it. As long as Fractions Hawkeye is in there. And hopefully we'll see you next week with our next episode of Hazardous Materials. Yep. Yeah. Have a good one.
Hey everybody, this is Brooke with Haphazard Fiction, and thanks for tuning in to Casey and Gideon bringing you their top 10 of the decade with Hazardous Materials, last week's comics this week. We're starting off a new year and a new decade, so we are definitely excited about the way we have started, but eye on the prize, everybody. We're looking at the end goal, so we need you. We need your help. We need you to help us get better. If you've got it in you, throw us comments, send us emails, throw us some messages on Facebook, Twitter, any of our social media. We can definitely use any of that input, because it's going to be able to really help us grow this brand and make sure we get you the best possible show, because our few loyal fans out there, we definitely would like to be able to see this podcast just blow up. Love to be able to do this full time. Love to be able to bring all of the Haphazard Fiction Studios products and content to you guys across the board. So please stick around. Please give us your support in any way, shape, or form you can. We just appreciate you guys being here with us. We have a lot of fun doing this and look forward to continue doing it throughout the new year. So thanks for tuning in to Casey and Gideon's recording of the best of the decade with Haphazard Fiction Studios' production of Hazardous Materials.